honor. Our democracy defenders on the ground know that that requires electing people willing to stand up for the right to vote. Like LaTosha Brown in Lewis's home state of Georgia, whose blockbuster Black Voters Matter mobilizing effort sent turnout sky high in 2020, delivering Democrats the White House and 2 senators, Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff. But the fight continues. And with me now is today's ReidOut democracy defender, LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Thank you so much for being here. It is always great to talk to you, LaTosha. And I do wonder, as you look at the combination of these Republican legislatures that are determined to pass, you know, the most hoops possible for particularly voters of color, particularly Black voters, to jump through, and these conservative right-wing courts all the way at the Supreme Court that are willing to let them do it, how you operate, how that has changed the way that you operate in trying to ensure the right to vote.
You know, part of it is we've had to use multiple strategies. We've had to use a legal strategy. We have several lawsuits that we've had to file. We've had to organize in the streets and be able to organize organizations on the local level, the state level, and the federal level to combat some of this. We've had to combat some of the misinformation that is happening. In addition to that, we've also had to make sure that we are literally lifting up and advocating for there to be federal legislation. And so there are all multiple levels that we have to work on. You know, what we've seen over the years is we've seen presidential powers expand. We've seen partisan powers expand. We've seen the courts literally operate in such a way, instead of interpreting the law, in many ways, what they're doing is dismantling, I think, civil rights and voting rights in this country. And so if a democracy is to be so, we're going to have to take the first 3 words of the Constitution seriously: we the people. And so part of our work is really how do we galvanize people to care, have the information, and mobilize around this issue.
You know, and we talk about the, election of these 2 senators in Georgia, and they are both Democrats, but that is because, the vast majority of Black voters, when they vote for Democrats. That is just sort of the party that we have wound up in throughout, the way that history has sort of churned out. But the administration are Democrats, too. How would you gauge their level of support? This district court judge said, well, the Justice Department is going to have to weigh in. Do you feel that the effort to secure the right to vote, not for the sake of the party, but for the sake of the voters, has been getting adequate support from the Justice Department and from the administration?
Let me say this. I think that one of the complaints I've been saying all the while is I don't think that we're taking the seriousness of this threat to democracy. That on one level, we're dealing with this like this is just a policy issue between two warring factions, 2 political parties, right? We're not really talking about how the very basic democratic system is being attacked by the legislative branch. We saw it being opened by the executive branch, and now what we're seeing is by the judicial branch. And so I do believe that we're not addressing this, and I believe both political parties at this point right now, the most critical issue in this nation should be voting rights. And if that was the case, we would have voting rights legislation right now currently in this nation.
Yeah, indeed. And, the Supreme Court obviously is a part of this as well. This is President Biden's self-imposed deadline this week to select the next nominee for the United States Supreme Court. He has said it will be a Black woman. I'll just put up the final 3, at least per reporting, are Ketanji Brown, Leandra Kruger out of California, and J. Michelle Childs. What do you make of, there is sort of a back channel kind of campaign that's being waged on behalf of Judge Childs. There is, the Harvard University Black alum wrote a letter, strongly supporting Ketanji Brown. This is like a campaign at this point. What do you make of it? And what do you make of the sort of choices that are being made and the range of choices that the administration is considering, that the president is considering?
There's one thing, let me say early on, that this whole notion of these women are highly qualified. So to actually frame this, we know that this is going to be a racist trope that's going to be used, right? When Donald Trump said that he was going to select a woman, there was no debate. Now, all of a sudden, the only difference is he's saying that Biden is saying a Black woman. And look at what is brought up in this right now. And so I think what we're going to have to see is right now we need a strong advocate on that court that is going to stand for voting and civil rights to protect democracy in this nation. I think that we're going to have to really make sure that we're drowning out those voices of this racial trope that are going to try to use and destroy whoever the nominee is. We know this is happening. This is coming. We've seen it already. And so we've got to be prepared and recognize and keep our eyes on the prize, as John Lewis and others said. We've got to keep our eyes on the prize. We are in a fragile state in this democracy right now. We need a Supreme Court justice that is going to stand in the space of being a voice of reason for protecting democracy in this country. And it's also going to require people putting more pressure on the Democratic Party. We're going to need the political party to do more work to make sure that they're out front saying this is a core issue in terms of going forward.
Yeah, indeed. I know that Black Voters Matter is very active all over the country, but Texas is one of the battlegrounds to try to secure the right to vote. Harris County being one of the big battlegrounds where we're already seeing like lots and lots and lots of voters being rejected and ballots being rejected. Very briefly, for your final answer here, what do we do about this? This is already law. It's already hurting voters.
We're going to have to organize like hell. I think that it's really important for us to recognize that we are in a critical moment. This is not about partisan politics. The bottom line is there's a small group of people right now that are seeking to undermine democracy.
Yep.
We've got to get engaged in the election. We've got to fight like hell.
Well, you know who's always going to fight like hell? You. LaTosha Brown, you're great. Thank you very much. Thank you for all that you do for democracy. Democracy defender LaTosha Brown.